And now let me welcome to the stage Jan Shinsky, who is Senior Policy Editor at Politico in Europe. Jan. Oh, yes.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to welcome Mihail Popșoi, the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Moldova, for our conversation. I'm going to try to take a couple of questions. So if you do pop them into the questions channel, I'll be taking a look at that and making sure that we do turn to that towards the end of the conversation. Thanks again for joining us. As we were talking backstage, you're obviously not the foreign minister of Ukraine, but I'm assuming that you're keeping an interested eye on what's going on the whole pressure around meeting in Istanbul or not. How important is what's going on right now to Moldova?
It is incredibly important. The Republic of Moldova, among Ukraine's neighbors, is the country most affected by the war. We are most vulnerable, but at the same time, we have welcomed the largest number of refugees per capita. We've provided humanitarian assistance. We've stand strong by Ukraine. And I happened to spend Europe Day, celebrate with our Ukrainian friends, all of our friends in Europe, Europe Day in Lviv, where the international community has established the foundational base for the International Tribunal for the Crimes of Aggression. So Moldova is very much involved because we say it often that Ukraine defends all of us. It might be a bit more abstract for some than for others. For us, it's not at all abstract. We are really next in line. And if, God forbid, Ukraine would not have been able to withstand more than those 3 days that some of us, even those that are well-meaning, have allowed Ukraine to, we would have been clearly next in line. So for us, it's very important, and we put a lot of hope, even though it was already mentioned today that it's not a great strategy. For us, it's more often the only thing we have. We hope that the talks will go well. First of all, we hope that they will happen, because it might be a bit too optimistic to think that they will go well from the very beginning. This concept of peace through strength really resonates with us. Peace is what all of us want, and strength is the only language that Putin understands. So we are very much looking forward to all of our friends, and of course our friends in Washington, to lean in on the strength part, because that's the only thing that works. Appeasement never works, and us in Europe certainly know a thing or two about that. And I'm sure our American friends are coming around to understand that strength is the only mechanism that results can be achieved with. And we very much hope that in Istanbul things will go forward, and the Republic of Moldova, Ukraine, and the entire region can start to think and have a more positive outlook towards the future, because the past 3 years have been anything but. Has been a bit of a roller coaster of anxiety. One day you have some positive views, some positive news, and the next day you have some hardly depressing developments. So we very much look forward to the discussions in Istanbul, and peace is something that we've been craving for, and Ukraine has been craving for not just 3 years, but frankly going back to 2014, to the annexation of Crimea.
So how worried are you about the implications of a bad peace deal? There's been some talk from the White House that there would be a de jure recognition of Russia's control of Crimea, that there would be some sort of a land for peace deal, that Russia's occupation of territories in eastern Ukraine would in some form be recognized. You've got your own issue with territorial integrity, a breakaway part under Russian control in Transnistria. So how worried are you that this would be the first time since World War II that there is a recognition that an aggression is rewarded by permanent border changes?
It's not great, diplomatically speaking. And it's highly ironic that in 2025, on the 50th anniversary of the Helsinki Act and the principle of inviolability of borders, we are discussing about concessions by aggression, literally territorial grabs, land grabs. This is not something that our predecessors in 1975 were hoping for, and this is certainly not making justice to them. As a representative of the Republic of Moldova, of course, we cannot accept change of borders by force. We certainly have had our fair share of struggles with the separatist entity in the Transnistrian region of the Republic of Moldova. We would not wish to our worst enemies to have a frozen conflict. A frozen conflict is something that keeps you hostage, doesn't allow you to capitalize on the opportunities that sovereignty avails to you, because you cannot fully exercise your sovereignty. You cannot capitalize on the opportunities that world economy provides you, investments. So that is certainly a significant challenge for the Republic of Moldova in the past 30 years, as the Kremlin has kept us hostage as much as our citizens from the Transnistrian region. We very much hope that a solution, a reasonable solution, a compromise that is just, that is fair, that will produce a long-lasting peace in Ukraine without land concessions, because that will be exactly the appeasement and the concessions that will invite further aggression, not just in Ukraine. We've seen the period between the annexation of Crimea and the full-fledged invasion. And we know that there are other parts, other regions of the world where this precedent would potentially create hard points. So it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure that we reach a decision that will not be conducive towards further escalation and invite further aggression, but a solution that is lasting, just, and that produces real peace and not just a temporary ceasefire and then continuous harassment and undermining of a sovereign country like Ukraine, and frankly undermining the stability and the economic well-being of the entire region.
So what's the situation now with Transnistria? Russia obviously has its plate full now with Ukraine. Is the Kremlin sending messages to you about what it sees as a potential solution? Are they talking about a permanent border change and carving out Transnistria into a separate entity? Or are they content to leave it, as you mentioned, a long-time frozen conflict which hobbles Moldova in the future? What sense do you get of what's the end game that they're looking for, and are you engaged in any talks at all over this?
We're not engaged in any talks with Russia, nor can we. It's safe to say that they have their plate full, and they are quite preoccupied in Ukraine. We have a firm commitment to resolve the conflict, which there isn't really a conflict at the human level. I mean, for God's sake, the Sheriff Tiraspol football team is the champion of Moldova the past 20 years, because we have one national football championship. And
so they travel around the country back and forth with.
We have, from an economic perspective, we're one country. Everything that is exported from the Transnistrian region of Moldova is done with Moldovan customs stamps. 80% of everything that is produced in the region is sold on the European market. The rest of Moldova, 70%. So the Transnistrian region of Moldova is even more anchored onto the European market than the rest of Moldova. So, the fact that Sheriff Tiraspol a couple years ago beat Real Madrid in Madrid, that gave us some duality. Do we root for the team from the separatist entity? But that's the nature of the reality in our part of the world. It's safe to say that in the current status of Moldova as an EU candidate country, and in light of the progress that we're making onto the EU path, and the growing quality of life in the Republic of Moldova, and the growing quality of democratic institutions, now that we are a democracy summit, is making Moldova much more attractive. Because at the end of the day, it needs to be a democratic solution, a peaceful solution, and we need to make Moldova more attractive to the citizens from the left bank. And that is already happening. That is seen in economic engagements, that is seen with the opinions of the people on the ground. Of course, it probably helps, ironically, that the Russians have cut off the gas to the Transnistrian region this January in the middle of winter, and it was the European Union that has come to the rescue. And even the most pro-Russian folks in the region would start to question and would have some sort of a coming to Jesus moment when it is Kremlin that is turning off the gas and is letting your children freeze, and it is the European taxpayer that are coming to the rescue. So the pull factor of European integration is a significant fertile ground for peaceful reintegration. It also helps that finally, after many, many years, we have, thanks to Ukraine's cooperation, full control over the border, of the Moldovan-Ukrainian border on the Transnistrian segment, which hasn't been the case for many years. So these are a number of game changers, and the fact that Moldova has diversified its energy supply, and we are no longer dependent on Gazprom, which seemed impossible a few years back. So all this progress makes me more and more optimistic that we'll be able to have a solution, and the only solution that we see is a peaceful one.
Some of the earlier panels have talked about the rising threat from Russia, the potential that Russia might even attack a NATO or an EU country. What's the level of threat that you feel from Russia? Do you see Russia's involvement in your domestic politics? Do you see them working through political parties, through money, through hybrid threats? And if so, how are you trying to defend yourself against that?
Well, we have the dubious honor of being the petri dish of Russian propaganda and Russian hybrid tactics, and we're doing our best to withstand. And in fact, call me biased, but we've managed to survive this onslaught successfully in light of the re-election of President Sandu at the end of last year, in light of the success of the EU referendum. Yes, it was a narrow margin, but as my friends keep telling me, a win is a win. And I've come about to accept this reality, even though our expectation was of a much higher margin. But it is because of the illegal campaign funding that the Russians are trying to funnel money into Moldova to hijack our democracy. Cyber attacks continuously on our electoral infrastructure, on our institutions, and of course disinformation. But we are learning, we're adapting, and we are better off today than 3 years or 5 years ago.
But you have a resilience now that you...
This is a testament to the resilience of the Moldovan society, but it is also a testament to the incredible support that we get from our partners, from the European Union, from the United States, and Denmark is an incredible partner in this capacity building in the Republic of Moldova to withstand this onslaught of hybrid tactics, so that we can in turn share with our partners the lessons learned and the tactics, so you don't have to endure what we have to go through.
I've got a very controversial question for you from the audience. Transnistria has one of the largest weapons arsenals in Europe. Would you support Ukraine liberating Transnistria, give it back where it belongs to Moldova, and resupply the Ukrainian army? Essentially, that Ukraine steps in and helps you retake Transnistria.
Well, as I said, the only solution that we see to the Transnistrian issue is a peaceful solution. My father is a veteran of the 1992 conflict, of the Russia fostering separatism in Moldova. We don't want to see war on the territory of the Republic of Moldova. But moreover, more to the point, those munitions there, by and large, are obsolete. Those are munitions from the 70s and 80s. They need to be disposed on site. Most of them are not, useful. Mm-hmm. So our position has been, and our friends in Ukraine have been very understanding of this situation. In fact, our cooperation and our friendship and partnership with our friends in Kyiv has been great in the past few years, and we very much look forward to continuing that.
What's the status of your EU application? There was some talk of that there hasn't been for several EU cycles. There has been no enlargement. Where are you in line, and how far advanced are your talks?
Well, we've lost 3 decades. We have no more time to lose. We've lost the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s, when all of our friends and brothers, including in Romania, have embarked on this path and have reached the destination. We are now firmly on this path. We are a candidate country. We are eagerly awaiting to open the first clusters of negotiations. We're finalizing the screening process. We've been incredibly thankful to the Polish presidency to trying to do more, but for reasons beyond their control, we are a bit stuck at this moment. We hope that there is going to be a solution for Ukraine and Moldova to move forward. We very much look forward to the Danish presidency in the second half of the year to spearhead this effort, because we have delivered on our commitments, first and foremost to our citizens, because, EU integration is great, but the reforms that we're doing ultimately serve the interest of our citizens. EU integration comes as a bonus, because the quality of life, the better democratic institutions, better, more competitive economy is something that our citizens have frankly asked for, have been craving for decades. We are able finally now to provide that, and we hope that in a merit-based system, it will be reciprocated by our friends in Brussels and in member states, and we'll be able to reclaim our rightful place in the European family of nations from where we've been ripped apart at the end of the Second World War for no fault of our own. So we are doing the heavy lifting at home, and we are counting on our friends in Brussels and in member states to help us move forward.
You mentioned Romania. The nationalist candidate in the upcoming Romanian presidential election has talked of reintegrating Moldova back into Romania. You yourself, you mentioned, are a Romanian citizen and plan to actually vote in that election. What's the dynamic between the two countries, and is that one of the answers to European integration, is to do Romanian integration?
Well, that has been a long trend in Moldovan politics. There's been a small, significant group of people that has been vocal about union with Romania. That number has oscillated between about 20 to 30%. A very vocal group, but that has not been close to the 50% majority that would be required in a referendum. When it comes to the populist voices in Romania and elsewhere, the answer to populism is more democracy. The answer to populism is to be able to be more responsive to your voters, to your constituency, and we very much hope that in Romania things will go in a positive direction so that Romania can remain firmly anchored in the Euro-Atlantic space and a trusted partner for the Republic of Moldova. And of course, many Moldovans who are also Romanian citizens, about half of us, Moldovans are full-fledged European citizens, so we are now working on legalizing the real estate back home as a member of the EU, because most of us are already EU citizens. But it's incredibly important for us that developments in Romania go well, but also elections in Poland are incredibly important for regional stability, and we are counting on European values and Euro-Atlantic values prevailing, because they have served well the citizens of Romania, Poland, the Baltic countries. And one thing that I can live with is that democracy delivers in the Republic of Moldova. And there is anything else that we've learned in the past 3 years, that democracy is as much a cause of the war in Ukraine, because Russian neo-imperial ambitions are one thing, but Putin's fear of democracy taking root in Ukraine, flourishing in Moldova, is a fear and a threat to his regime. So a response to that is more democracy and stronger democracy.
Thank you very much. Ending on a good democratic note at the Democracy Summit. Thank you again for taking part in the conversation. And I'll invite you to the coffee break, which is starting right now.